Today's episode of Off the Timeline is titled, What If the Big 12 Never Formed? The 1998 Chaos That Changed College Football. What if I told you one of the most powerful conferences of the last 25 years didn't exist in an alternate universe? Not because of Texas, not because of TV money, but because Nebraska hesitated. In this alternate history, one 6 month delay in 1994 prevents the Big 12 from ever forming. Kansas State wins a national title in 1998. Notre Dame reshapes the system, and Texas quietly flirts with the SEC much earlier than in real life. This is not fantasy expansion. This is structural chaos rooted in incentives. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Let's break the map and set the table for the hesitation in 1994. In real life, the Southwest Conference collapses and merges with the Big Eight to form the Big 12 in the 1990s. But here's what people forget: that merger required agreement. And in this alternate history, Nebraska hesitates. Nebraska was not just a good program in the mid 90s, they were a dynasty. They did not need Texas. They did not need a Southern identity change. And they absolutely did not want Texas influencing revenue distribution. So instead of rejecting the merger outright, Nebraska delays it. They request equal revenue guarantees, neutral championship site rotations, governance language that limits Texas dominance. Texas pushes back. Negotiations stall for 6 months. That 6 months is the oxygen needed for the Farm Belt idea. While negotiations drag, something interesting happens. Wisconsin is rising. Rose Bowl relevance. Barry Alvarez momentum. Meanwhile, Kansas State is ascending under Bill Snyder. Colorado still has national credibility. And Texas Tech fears permanent underclass status in a Texas-controlled league. Quiet conversations begin, not about forming a super conference, but about alignment. A Plains Midwest football block. No ego, no Dallas-centric governance, just stability. In this alternate history, that block becomes known internally as the Heartland Alignment. Now let's set the table for why this is plausible. Cable expansion in the 90s reward loyal statewide markets. Nebraska owns its state. Wisconsin owns its state. Kansas State pretty much owns its state. And Texas Tech commands West Texas without pro competition. This is not glamour, it's subscription density. And ESPN notices. And that sets the table for the 1997 that makes everything worse. In real life, 1997 splits the national championship between Michigan and Nebraska. In this alternate history, that split is louder because there is no clean Big 12 structure. There is no North versus South championship game validation. The bowl coalition looks unstable. Public pressure grows. And that's when a blue blood intervenes. Notre Dame publicly supports structural reform, not by joining, but by advocating for a unified championship selection model. That accelerates reform. And that sets the table for 1998 and the title that changes everything. Here's where here's where real history comes in, not broken but slightly bent. In real life, Tennessee wins the 1998 national title, but in this alternate history, the Heartland Alignment has no Big 12 title game to derail Kansas State. Kansas State finishes undefeated. No conference title stumble, no chaos loss. The new unified championship model matches Kansas State versus Tennessee. Kansas State wins. Bill Snyder wins the national title. Now Nebraska is no longer the Plains monarch. Now Wisconsin isn't secondary inventory. Now Texas sees writing on the wall. And that sets the table for the 1999 Texas Panic. In '99, Texas reacts. Texas quietly explores expansion talks with the SEC. This is 13 years before real-life SEC expansion chaos. The SEC listens, Arkansas wobbles, Texas A&M hesitates, and Oklahoma must choose sides. And in this alternate history, Oklahoma chooses the Heartland Alignment instead of following Texas South. The Big 12 never forms. The 2000 Oklahoma national title is won under a Heartland banner. The 2010 Nebraska departure never happens. The Longhorn Network era never materializes. And modern realignment dominoes never set off. And that sets the table for some things you might be thinking. You may be thinking to yourself that Nebraska would never block the Big 12. They didn't block it, they delayed it. Merger terms were fragile before signatures. You may be thinking to yourself that Wisconsin would never risk the Big Ten. They don't leave the Big Ten. They start with a challenge series. Their role is scheduling autonomy, not secession. You may be thinking to yourself that Texas Tech doesn't have the gravity. They aren't gravity, they're the bridge. Geography matters. You may be thinking to yourself that SEC wouldn't entertain Texas in 1999. They absolutely would. Market access and recruiting footprint are irresistible. And you may be thinking to yourself that this just copies the 1997 national title split forward. It doesn't. 1997 creates reform pressure. 1998 changes the champion, becoming the structural divergence. And that sets the table on why this alternate history would have changed modern college football. No Big 12 would have meant no North versus South imbalance narrative, no Nebraska resentment, no early 2010s instability move, no Texas A&M shock move, and different BCS power weighting based on the events of this alternate universe. The entire 2010s realignment era may have never unfolded the same way, all because Nebraska hesitated. The Big 12 feels inevitable in hindsight, but inevitability is often just momentum that never got interrupted. In this alternate history, momentum stalls, and once it stalls, the plans consolidate. Notre Dame reshapes the system. Kansas State wins it all, and Texas panics early. One hesitation, one ripple, and a completely different map. And if you enjoyed this alternate history breakdown, hit like so this video gets pushed to more college football fans. Drop a comment. Would Texas eventually have joined the SEC in this timeline? And if you want more what if the sport broke differently scenarios, check out the videos on the end screen here. And so subscribe if you're into high ceiling, alternate college football chaos. I'll see you in the next timeline.